So welcome everybody. Happy New Year. And today is also Martin Luther King's Day we're celebrating here in the United States. So it's a holiday. So thanks for being here anyway, the people who are in the US. And today we're looking forward to a session with Sarah and Alexis. And we Lily, as I think all of you know, because all of your faces are familiar faces for us. I don't think anybody here is the first time joining. We published the book, Coaching Supervision, Voices from the Americas. So we hope that you get the book if you have not have seen the book yet. We have 20, how many, Lily, how many people participated in the book? 20 something, 20?
Yeah, just over 20. You're trying to make me talk, aren't you? Huh.
We want to hear your voice too, Lily.
I was going to say I was going to be silent all day, but that is blown.
Yeah, and also with Lily, we are starting our 6th year. So we are celebrating 6 years of the America Coaching Supervision Network. We started 6 years ago in March. So March will be our anniversary. But our idea for this year is we're planning the conference. You can already, we're going to talk about that at the end of the session today. But we're inviting people who have contributed to the book to come to our meetings and share some of the content from the chapter. So this is what we're doing today. Sarah and Alexis are going to be doing an exercise that is going to be very interactive, related to the chapter that they wrote in the book. And I have it ready. And I loved it. It's chapter number 9, Resourcing, Restoring, and Responding through Coaching Supervision. So thanks to both of you for contributing to the book, for being here today. And I let you share whatever you would like to share about you and to start doing some work.
Amazing. Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be kicking off the year this way. And I just want to offer some context around the song. Sarah and I wanted to find a way to honor Dr. Martin Luther King's Day here in the States, and the 5 stair steps, that's a song from the 70s that was actually written by a white guy, Stan Vincent, and then produced and sung by a Black family in this really great collaboration. And I think for us, the day is about that, a coming together in community to move something forward, where we're honoring the distinctions, but we're also allowing them to inform the ways that we can resource each other. So that's a lot of why we opened with that song. Plus, it's got this uplift to it. So sometimes it feels like a heavy lift to do that, but to be able to do it and hold joy at the same time is what we're after. What we're going to be heading into today is experiential as much as it's pedagogical. And that's one of the other things that Sarah and I were working on and having a blast being focused with, is the idea of resourcing and resilience as a practice, as opposed to just as an ideology. So we're going to invite you to jump in breakouts and to do some exercises and to dialogue. And in a moment, I'm going to kick it over to Sarah, who's going to take us into our first exercise. But I just want to offer some context around an agenda. We have 3 sort of high-level paths we'll be walking today. And the first has to do with exploring personal resilience. So how it is that we already practice in ways that we might share to resource one another. And then we're going to have a reflection on the exercise Sarah's going to give us and see what resilience we might find in there, what debrief we can take out of that to move into the next piece that we're going to look at, which is our practice and how resilience and resourcing in a mutual way in relational spaces is also something that we're focused on, specifically with regard to supervision. And then the final thing that we're going to take a look at, the final element, is what we call the 7 C's of cultivating core. And they're all wrapped under an umbrella of compassion, but we'll go ahead and take a bit of a more granular look at a couple of them, the ones that we haven't hit along the way. How's that sound for everybody? Does that sound like a good way to spend our time? Okay, excellent. I got a thumbs up from Michelle. I got an enthusiastic nod from Gigi. That means it's time for me to pass the baton to my colleague and dear friend, Sarah.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Sarah, and I am also just so delighted to be here, and I felt that uplift in the song. We were singing it together yesterday, and just really felt that sense of an expansiveness. And how we thought we'd begin and invite you, however you choose to ground yourself. This is something I learned from Amanda Blake. And so we wanted to start and invite you, if you want to, just to take a 10-second pulse check. And if you can find your pulse this early in the morning for those on the West Coast, and later in the day for you, Michelle. And when you found that, start. And stop. Okay. And if you want to take note of that number for your pulse. And the invitation here is when we get more present, when we get more physically present, we get more present. So do what you need to do now, whether it's wiggle in your seat, stretch a little, take a deeper breath, whether you want to do that with eyes closed, roll your head, stretch into your back, feel that spine holding you, clear those hips, space in your hips, all the way down your legs and your feet, and into your ankles. Roll those feet, roll those ankles. And as you're getting a little bit more present into your present self, becoming a little bit more awake, a little bit more alert, find your natural breathing and reflect on and remind yourself what you care deeply about that brought you into this work. What is it that holds you in this work, in that place of care? Take a moment to tap into that feeling of care in your body. Notice any sensations that you have in your body related to the care that brought you into this work. Notice whatever warmth or coolness, movement or stillness, any other body sensation that for you evokes the care that brought you into this work. And if there's a particular place in your body where that just, you feel that, feel free to put your hand there. And as you think about how you are feeling right now, I invite you to capture one word for yourself. One word. And as you become more present to the sensation of care in your body, take a look in your surroundings and if you wish, find something on your desk. I have this shell. that you can put somewhere visible. So when you see it, you can tap into that felt sense of care. So you can tap into your body where you felt that care. You also have a visual clue, something you can put in your visual field that will remind you of that felt sense of care as we explore today. Let that be the central organizing principle for you: how to be present, how to listen, how to self-regulate. Your sense, the deep sense of felt care. I invite you to take a deep breath. And let's just do another pulse check. So we find that pulse once more. Start. And stop. And if you choose to, we invite you to add I invite you, me and all my personalities, invite you to add your one word that you captured for yourself in the chat room. Okay. Calm, hope, grounded, tingle, fatigue, effervescent. All right. All of those feelings, all of them, you have just spent time in the parasympathetic system or the renewal state. And we may have had a biomarker around that with a pulse rate or what you felt in your body, that you literally in a few seconds could access a renewal state system that you have as a natural part of who you are. And you can tap into that at any point in time, that care grounding. Richard Boyatzis also offers us another one of taking a few moments and connecting with, reflecting on the experiences we've had with people who have mentored us or who have taught us, where we have a beloved experience and we have that memory of our relationship with them. It literally invites parasympathetic renewal. Alexis.
Thanks, Sarah. We're actually going to give a chance to go into breakouts now, both to debrief the exercise and just to have an opportunity to have a check-in, everybody be able to get voices in the room. So we do have a question for you too, which has to do with resilience resourcing. So the idea of opening or doing a grounding or focusing meditation, bringing in the parasympathetic awareness is not necessarily new to anyone, but knowing what it does and then actually doing it before we head into our sessions, at least for me, is often two different things. Being able to create the intention and then actually create and tie the action to it. So, two-part question. Number one, how was that exercise for you? And you could potentially begin with the one word that you came out of it with. And number two, what do you already do to resource yourself before heading into an engagement that's a supervision focused engagement? Or how do you tie your intention to an action when it comes to resilience and resourcing? Two prompts. So Damien, we'll go ahead into about a 7-minute breakout and give everyone a chance to say hello and address those two. And I'll broadcast a banner or ask Damien to broadcast a banner so that we can have those prompts in the room as well. We good to go, Damien?
Yes, I put the questions in the chat and we're going to go to 2 rooms.
Thank you.
Starting right now for 7 minutes.
Self-credit for when it does and be okay with when it doesn't without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
What would Michelle, or Sunny, what do you want to add?
It was interesting. Go ahead, Michelle.
Ahead, Sunny. Oh, thank you. I just, how we come in so differently, and that makes such an impact on where we land when we take that moment. So Yeah, I was in meditation earlier today, and a focus on gratitude, which I recognize as a higher energy level. And I felt more effervescent afterwards. My pulse was higher. And so that's interesting for me. Last week, it might not have been the same. So that's where I think Naomi was talking about the dynamic forces of that, and what's going on around us can so much impact. And then how, when we go in, how do we influence the folks that we're with? So I think, Sunny, you were going to talk about that a bit, maybe.
Well, I just will add the intersection of energy. I was really fatigued because I didn't sleep well, but I sort of really moved myself. I was sharing with my clients, we're talking a lot about doing and being, and the difference between those two. And I have a lot of clients who are big doers, and they really have a difficulty or challenge just being with things, you know. So, and being with other people, even if your energy is not necessarily as high as you'd like it, the intersection of those energies can really be helpful to you, just being with others.
It's like I asked you to pivot us to our next thing, which is talking about the relational spaces. So exactly that. The beginning is acknowledging where we are, and then where it is that we're trying to move to in order to be resourceful, but that often that happens or doesn't in relation to others. So let me thank you all for your thoughts on that and for sharing out with us. And let me go ahead and turn to Sarah, who's going to take us down our next path. Sarah.
All right. Well, we'll touch into the chapter that we wrote a little bit, and I just wanted to read you a little excerpt. We pulled a quote from Doug Silsby's Presence-Based Leadership, Complexity Practices for Clarity, Resilience, and Results. So, quote, "Your inner state is the foundation for resilience, the capacity for creativity, resourcefulness, and skilled action, no matter what is going on around you." Close quote. So how are we at core? We grow in our capacity to resource self when we engage in the practice of intentionally cultivating our core, developing awareness and purpose around who and how we want to be. So just a quick shout out for what can go on at conferences. Alexis and I actually met at the 2020 conference. And right at the start of the pandemic and multiple storms, as you may recall, politically, socially, socioeconomically, and we had really rich conversations about what was going on for ourselves, how we were feeling, how our clients were feeling, what were we noticing. And it was right after that, you might recall that Damien Barr had a very famous tweet in April 2020 that said, "We are not all in the same boat. We are all in the same storm." And that led to an anonymous author cited by Barr penning a poem that the last two lines of that poem just really captivated us, and we wanted to bring them back to recall today. "It is very important to see beyond what is seen at first glance, not just looking, more than looking, seeing." And for us, that spoke to the practice, the promise of our supervision space. We both live on the West Coast, Alexis in LA, I'm in Victoria, close to where Lily is. And that we really resonated with that metaphor of the storm. And, you know, our world being in a perpetual state of disruption and transition, the storms come, the storms go. And while the specific challenges of the moment will be addressed in some way, there's always going to be forces that impact us. So we asked ourselves, how can we best support our colleagues as we also replenish our own reserves when the stakes are high, the background is loaded, and truly peaceful moments can be hard to find? How do we find that eye in the storm, that calm space, I have a wonder hubby who's he kayaks on the ocean all the time. And he was telling me about eddies, the same thing. There's water coming, going in different ways. And there's always that eddy in that, in the midst. So how do we find that calm within ourselves while the storms are swirling around us? And how do we invite that or hold that in our supervision spaces? So we literally took a perspective of resilience from natural systems, where there is more of an absorbing, an adapting, and a continuing. And we contexted that with the functions of our supervision, particularly into the restorative space. And what we developed was a framework. It's a model of relational spaces, literally. How do we bring our core self into the relational spaces of our supervision conversations? And the beginning of our framework, or the piece that holds it all together, is cultivating core, self as instrument. We carried our C metaphor over, so we still have 7 C's going on, but there are also other relational spaces that we felt were important to hold as well. That place of mindful reflection, the pursuing ease and calm, the sense of flow in how we presence and show up, that systemic awareness. How do we attend to the relational dynamics? And shift in how we activate meaning making and learning. And all of that occurring in a dynamic process, relationship within us, relationship within our client, relationship with our client, relationship in a larger space. So that just tags a little bit into what you'll find in our chapter. And Alexis, over to you for us to actually play with 7 C's.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. I want to actually invite everybody again into now an experiential moment. I'll offer the 7 C's shortly, but let me actually just invite everybody over in the chat. Can you please put the first, well, here's how it's going to go. I'm going to ask you to put, there's 3 steps to it. First, put the first job that you had. So however you define that, it could be the first thing you were ever paid for, or the first thing that you were given adult responsibility on, or whatever. But however you define it, go ahead, I'll kick us off and pop into the chat your first job. Okay, photographer's assistant, babysitter, retail sales, entertainer at birthday parties. Oh my God, Damien, I really want to know more about that. Library assistant, transferring medical data from hard copy to early form of digital records. Awesome. Okay, so if you haven't dropped something in, go ahead and drop something in. And the next step is take a moment, if you can, go back and think about if you were going to attach a sensory experience to that job, what is something that you remember that lives in the senses? And again, I'm happy to drop in. Okay, colors, fun. Damien, sensorial. So like the a smell or something that you like, something that you remember that's like that you could feel or experience. Fun. I love that it was fun, and I am going to ask you about it further. Artificial light and dust. Bad taste in my mouth. Hard plastic. Okay. Assembling a babysitter at my dad's company. Gigi, I'm deeply curious about that too. Okay. Keep going, and feel free to read one another's items, obviously, as I'm also speaking them out loud. And then the last piece is, if you were to identify a learning or a takeaway or something that you go, here's what that job taught me. And it doesn't have to be finite, but it can just be emergent in this moment. What's something that you took away from that gig that you might still hold on to, or you might not, but ordering and organization. Catherine, like the value of it or the irritation of it, or performing may pay off. Great. Being organized. Gigi and Catherine both have organization as their takeaway. What else? Simplicity and minimalism. Nice. Being present. Don't want to do that ever. Thanks, Michelle. Okay. All right. We can put a pause in this, or keep it coming, but let me tell you what we're doing. We're actively being curious, which is one of our C's. So when we're looking at how we're resourcing ourselves and we're talking about cultivating resilience and finding ways to resource that are actionable instead of ideological, it's the trick with smart people where we go, well, I know this, I think this, the idea is this, but how do we do that? How do we actually make it manifest? So this is something you already know. You know what your first job was, but we shine a spotlight on it and we start asking different questions and we perform a degree of curiosity that takes us in deeper to an understanding of something that, again, we already know, but depending on the questions that we're asking and the direction that that's sending us in terms of the dynamic process, we're actually cultivating curiosity. So this is one way that we have kind of a drill to say, I find myself being too quick. I find myself jumping to conclusions. I find myself in a space when someone is talking to me too quickly anticipating what they're going to say next. It's a way to inhibit and then to go, how do I ask a question to learn something about this that I don't already know? This is one way that we're looking at developing curiosity, which is one of our 7 C's. Let me give you the rest of them. And again, we hold them all under the umbrella or in the bucket, choose your metaphor, of compassion. And we've already explored a handful of them. We've got calm, we've got curiosity, we've got connection, we've got creativity, which we're going to delve into in just a moment with another exercise. We've got clarity. Hopefully we've provided that for you by letting you know clearly where we're going in our time today. We've got confidence and we've got courage. And again, in the book, we expound on why these, but that's what we're going to be playing with today. So just to give you the high level. Often also, when we're in an experience of supervision, coaching, whenever it is that we're supposed to be holding space and someone is stuck, it's not ours to solve. We all know that. But how to develop a skill of being creative in either problem solving or seeing things a different way is a task that we can offer, that someone may very well take up, or that we can provide for ourselves. I do this all the time when I start to experience myself as less open-minded than I would like to be, or when I'm just moving too quickly from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and I need to sort of stop and reset. And so again, I want to invite all of you to play for a moment. And this is an exercise for cultivating creativity as part of CORE. So look around at your desk. Does everybody have stuff, or wherever you're sitting? Could be a desk, a table, wherever you are. Everybody have stuff? Just give me a thumbs up or a head nod. Like tangible things that you, okay. So here's the exercise, and everybody's on mute. So you'll do this on, in your own space. Nobody's going to be listening, but you're going to take at least 5 things, and you know exactly what they are, but you're going to call them something else. So clearly this is a big black Sharpie. It is. I know it is, with absolute certainty. And yet I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to work really hard to see eggplant parmesan. This is eggplant parmesan. I'm not denying the existence of the pen, but I am claiming that it is something else. Gigi, you're with me? You're great. Gigi's a great crowd, y'all. If I was a comedian, Gigi, you're who I'd be looking at in the audience for the 2-drink minimum. Same thing. I may be looking at this guy, but I may decide this is my dog, Jasper. 100%. This is Jasper. Okay. I'm going to go to something else. This is very clearly, this is my water bottle, but I'm going to look at it and I'm going to decide that it's a ship heading to Barbados. And I'm going to say, you're a ship heading to Barbados. Okay. This is the activity. You're going to look at a thing, you know with certainty what it is, and yet you're going to allow yourself to see and claim that it's something else. Clear? Okay, you got about a minute. I'm going to time it and I'll tell you when you're done. All right, on your mark, get set, go. About 20 more seconds. Turn it into a speed round. And time. All right. Okay. Who had something interesting happen that they are going to come off mute and share with the rest of us? Going once, going twice. Going 3 times.
It reminded me of play in childhood, imagination and using fantasy and imagination to augment reality.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. And so there's a beautiful book called Imagination First by Eric Liu and Scott Nopi Brandon. And the premise of it is everybody is screaming for innovation and new ways of thinking, but they don't first invest in imagination, which when practiced becomes creativity, which when mastered becomes innovation. So the first step is imagination. Like, how does something else become possible if we don't give ourselves a drill to kind of crack open what we think we already know? And it's not about denying reality, but it's about saying, the universal paradox of, can 2 things that seem to be in total opposition be true at the same time? So when we're in a space where there's a stuckness, how do we sort of quickly go, let me crack open the space of how I'm thinking? Did anybody have that experience of, at the same time that you're like, this is ridiculous, did anybody have the experience of when we finished feeling like anything had opened, like there was more space? It's fine if not, I'm just curious. Yeah, Naomi, yeah.
One of mine was a sticky notepad,
Mm-hmm.
and I imagined it to be an indoor water pond, and I could actually hear it in my imagination.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. Thank you. Anything else? Looking at things a little different. Okay. And if I was to say on a pedagogical level and an application level, what's the takeaway? It's that sometimes you have to impose another possibility to then allow yourself to emerge another possibility. And it's not necessarily that we're going to do anything with that, but it's simply the skill of, how do I deliberately see something differently? So there's a creative aspect to that, obviously. Let me actually check into, I didn't ask for any thoughts on that first exercise that we looked at in terms of the curiosity piece, about starting with, again, something the job, going into a sort of sensory detail and going into a takeaway or something that you might have learned, being curious about what that actually was. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Again, if not, fine, I just want to leave space for it.
Well, I have actually used it in group facilitation, but not the last two components, and they certainly added considerable richness, the whole sensory piece and the lessons learned. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine, for the thought. We want to give you an opportunity to go into a breakout one more time. All of this is obviously within the lens of our supervision practice. So Catherine, you just, again, segued naturally for me. You're doing this, but then maybe you add those two steps or you play with it or reveals something. A quicker debrief this time, Damien, maybe we can have like 4 minutes and then Sarah's going to wrap us up. But just to take a final reflection on how might this impact your practice or how might this serve you in your practice? Thanks, Damien. Physically with me. At the same time, Sarah is going to give us a quote to land the plane. So if everyone can go ahead and just take an expansive space, take some space. We know confidence comes from the ability to hold space, be still and be silent. So take up a nice big breath, take a nice big expanse with the body. Sarah, can you go ahead and give us our closing quote and we'll go ahead and release this.
Like tiny seeds with potent power to push through tough ground and become mighty trees, we hold innate reserves of unimaginable strength. We are resilient.
Thank you,
said Catherine DeVries.
I don't see it. There it is.
Thanks, everybody. All right,
Thank
Damien,
you.
Lily, turning back to you to close us out. Thanks, Sarah.
So Lily, do you want to share a little bit before we go about the conference coming up? And by the way, Sarah, Alexis, thank you very much. Great job, great opportunity for all of us to spend this time, this hour getting recharged. So that was a great exercise. And thanks again for accepting the invitation to be here today.
Yes, thank you so much, my friends. Go ahead, Damien.
I was going to say also, Sarah is going to be facilitating in our conference coming up a session on this topic. So this is coming up during our conference.
Okay, can we get the link to the conference in the chat, Damien? Can you get that done? So our conference is now set. Eventbrite's open. Early bird ends, I think, February the 14th. You'll be able to see all the information. Most of the information is confirmed. Eric DeHaan will be our keynote this year. Looking forward to that on relational practice in supervising team coaches. And next month we have Michel Morel coming to speak to us about the new book that he's edited, facilitated. So we're looking forward to that. See you every third Monday of the month is when we meet. Same time. Sorry, was somebody trying to say something?
Michelle was showing us the book.
Oh, Michelle. Okay, great.
But you will know everything about it next month.
All right, look forward to that.
The Asian Supervision Network.
And for the Asian Supervision Network, this month, Sunny is going to, is that correct, Sunny?
Yes.
Oh, that's why you were going like, where's that coming from? Okay.
So Sunny is going to be doing the same session that she did for this network, but some people couldn't come. So she's going to be doing it again. So don't miss that session. It's next week. Because in Asia, the Wednesday, the last Tuesday of the month in the Americas is a Wednesday in Asia. So we're moving to next week. So next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I know in Europe, it's going to be late for you, Michelle, in the middle of the night. But sometimes Michelle join us. He can be very active in that network, even it's very early in Europe.
Yeah, but I have already seen Sunny. So
yeah, okay. So, that will not be the case. So if you have not been here last month when A couple of months ago, Sunny did a presentation. We're going to have it again next week on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this time we're going to record it too in case you cannot come.
Right. And
I
Naomi
shared the article with the Michigan Conference coaches the week after, and we'll start talking about it. Still talking about that conversation. So
well,
it's
so
very
you
helpful.
never know how these sessions impact everybody else. So thank you, Sunny, for accepting the invitation to do it again.
Okay, see you all next month. Bye.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.